Well, good afternoon, dear students. Well, yesterday we discussed the story of Helen Keller, and in detail, little bit we'll get to know also today. Okay. Then I'll be just sharing some questions and answer with you, so that you'll be able to write it in your examination. Now, yesterday I just gave you a brief summary, and in detail, little bit, today we are going to read out about Helen Keller, and what happened to her. Okay, and you should better understand that Helen Keller, the full name you can see here. Helen Adam Keller, was born in Tuscumbia, Alabama on June 27, 1880. So if you are asked to write the date of birth, also that suppose in examination, if you are asked the background, the socio-cultural background, okay, of Helen, if you are asked, then you should understand also. Okay, so Helen, she was born in Tuscumbia, Alabama, on June 27, 1880. During the Civil War, her father, Arthur H. Keller, he had been a captain in the Confederate Army, and ancestral family owned a large plot, with a homestead and neighboring outhouse. This is not to remind, just will be coming back to the main plot or story, The homestead was called by Ivy Green, where they were staying, because it was an old-fashioned house covered with English ivy, Helen was quite fond of his house and the family garden, It was surrounded, the house was surrounded by, natural beauty in America. Although Helen enjoyed the fruits and springtime February turned things bleak, the doctor diagnosed her with acute congestion of the stomach and brain. What the child had actually problem? See, I discussed also in my previous class that when Helen was born, she was just like a normal kid, okay, like a normal child. But in due course of time, she got the problem like acute congestion of the stomach, we normally have also, sometimes, and brain. Now she became unconscious, leaving her family in a flurry of emotions and panic. The parents are really in trouble right now. Clear? The doctor diagnosed her with acute congestion. So that you have to, what happened to Helen, if it is asked, then you should understand that, she had an acute congestion of the stomach and brain, and she became unconscious, leaving the whole family member in a flurry of emotions and panic. Then, as suddenly as the illness enveloped her, Helen recovered from the fever. She had fever also, however, no one could tell at the time that Helen Keller would be without sight and hearing henceforth. Acute congestion of stomach, then a brain also, then she had fever also. And normally when we have fever also, that we can't imagine, or predict that, you might lose your eyesight or any hearing ability. But it happened to Helen, no one could believe it. Clear? No one could believe that, just a fever can take away, the visibility power and the hearing ability from Helen, and it happened. Progressing slowly, she learned that shaking head meant no, and a nod meant yes. A pull and push meant uh, the meaning pulling and pushing meaning come and go. Okay. Helen's mother helped her understand the world around her. However, the learning process was frustrating. The mother was helpless in teaching the child. And I discussed also with you that the parents finally appointed a new teacher for Helen, who was quite expert in handling the kids reading in physically handicapped school. And the lady, Miss N. Sullivan, the instructor of Helen, she was very generous, kind, very loving teacher, and she had a lot of patience to handle the kid, such a kid like Helen, who had lost both eyesight and hearing power. Now, although Helen learned to communicate in her own way, she could not grapple the differences between her and individuals who could speak at first. When she moved her mouth, she could not elicit the same effect as her counterparts, which frustrated Helen. The teacher, first of all, initially took some trouble to help out the child, but the teacher trying to instruct the child was not able to grasp it. Okay, but in due course of time, with having a lot of patience, the teacher motivated the child and guided in such a way that Helen could at least spell out some words. The child was able to spell out some words, understood their meanings also, and their connection with the real life. That is why CBSE, yesterday I informed you also that CBSE has now introduced experiential learning. Whatever you are reading, what is their connection, the text, simply we are reading the text. So what is their utility in practical life? The theory part, what is the connection of theory with the reality of real life? In this way, the teachers are supposed to be trained, lot of training the teachers are going to attend, so that they can impart whatever they gain from the training. Although Helen learned to communicate in her own way, she could not grapple the differences between her and individuals who could speak at first. And at 6, Helen was desperate to express herself, Up to class, suppose up to the age of 2nd and 3rd, or 2 and 3, the things can be manageable. But as she start growing up, then things become very difficult for her, and she became very much desperate to express herself. And she consulted many doctors and oculists also to find remedies. One notable consultation was with Dr. Alexander Graham Bell, who was immediately receptive to Helen's communication method. This sparked a bond between the two that lasted a lifetime. On his advice, Helen's father wrote to Perkins Institution for a suitable teacher for Helen. There is one institution named Perkins Institution, where Miss Sullivan was teaching. Perkins Institution, when the doctor said the child is having a different sort of problem, and normal teachers who are teaching physically handicapped school or dealing handicapped children over there, they won't be able to manage it. So specially a very reputed institution was there, Perkins Institution, where Helen was used to be a teacher, So parents wrote a letter to the institution to hire a brilliant teacher for Helen, a suitable teacher for Helen. That is, who is that teacher? Miss Sullivan. Miss N. Sullivan arrived, in 1887. Miss Sullivan came to Helen, came to the life of Helen, in 1887. You can see the date. In 1887, when Miss Sullivan came to Helen, she presented a doll, first of all, made by the children of Perkins Institution, Taking Helen's hand, she spelled with her finger D-O-double-L, doll. Intrigued, Helen began imitating her. Once Helen and Miss Sullivan walked to the well house so Helen could feel water also running across her hand. So what are the first thing what Helen learned? The very word doll. And small children, they are directly, if you just communicate them with straightforward forward language, then they won't be able to understand. So small children basically, either the normal children, they can visualize the things and grasp it very well, through pictures, some graphics, visual content. If it is there, then the children are able to comprehend any text material faster than that of simply teaching textbook in the classroom, That is why a lot of resources, a lot of teaching materials, the teachers, prepare for the small kids, so that they will be able to understand, Okay. If we ask a child, suppose the meaning of doll, it is explained to a child, the child may not be able to understand. So, what is the connection of the word doll and their meaning with the reality of life, So, experiential learning means the complete doll to be brought out before the kid and the child will be explained. Yes, this is the meaning of doll, and doll is looking, a doll looks like this. Okay, so in that way she tried to help out the child. But you see how difficult it is, because Helen is blind and deaf also. She won't be able to hear anything. Then she started following the teacher. Once Helen and Miss Sullivan, they were walking to the well house, so Helen could feel water running across her hand. When water was given, the running water, the teacher asked her to, means the teacher instigated her, or just, took the hand of Helen, because Helen could not say anything. So, when Helen did touch the water, running water, then she could spell out, Miss Sullivan spelled, water into her hand, Helen began exploring objects with her hands, learning their names, and Helen could feel that yes, water is something which is very much cool and pleasant. Okay. So, she learned their names also. Despite Miss Sullivan's creativity, learning to read was a laborious, very hardworking and exasperating process. Once Miss Sullivan did touch her forehead and spelled think, emphasizing the ongoing process inside her head, So whenever the teacher used to touch her head, the child was able to understand that this is all about thinking. The teacher is trying to make me understand. Okay, you see, in this way, in this process, the teacher help out the kid, and the child from the beginning, she was really in a very desperate zone, Now she came to a comfort zone. She could start learning, different things, their meanings, their connection with the reality, real life. At the end, eventually she gave Helen cards with embossed words, also allowing her to feel each alphabet and read the card through Braille, through which the physically handicapped children can be taught. She could arrange the cards to make sentences. These years of foundational education were pivotal to Helen's success. The basics she used to teach first of all with the help of Braille. In 1890, Helen learned to speak. Before she used to understand the meaning of each and every word, their connection with the reality, but she started speaking, in 1890. Miss Sullivan took Helen to Miss Sarah Fuller, who gave Helen 11 lessons in all. She taught Helen to use her hands to feel the position of the lips and tongue to utter words, how to make the movements of lips and tongue. Now, as we teach sometimes, how to pronounce a word with the help of phonetics to normal kids, we all have phonetics, the sound system, sounds of speech. Similarly, the teacher taught Helen also the movement of how to make the movement of lips and tongue to utter some words. And eventually Helen uttered her first word connected phrase, it is worm. First of all she was making, identifying some words, their meanings. Then now she started speaking, and complete connected phrase like, not full sentence, a shorter sentence, like it is worm. Today is not mentioned, it is worm. So that much, that shortest speech or the phrase, the child was able to pronounce or speak. In the winter of 1892, Helen wrote a story called The Frost King. 1892, you see, first of all you see 1890. The child was able to speak something, shortest phrases, but you see after 2 years, immediately what happened, something miracle happened in Helen's life, she wrote a story called The Frost King for Mr. Allendos of Perkins Institution for his birthday. Delighted by her efforts, he published the story in the institution's report. You see the miracle which occurred in that child's life, However, the story resembles The Frost Fairies by Margaret T. Kenby. Helen's was cross-examined in court with the charge of plagiarism. Because the story Helen wrote actually was the same content, the same theme. It was already published, by another writer, So plagiarism means when you follow somebody else, or when you make simply copy paste. Did you understand? Plagiarism means when you follow some. Simply, I can ask because many students are there who are just like plagiarist. Plagiarist means they just imitate, they just follow what other children do. They don't create their own. Nothing is innovative, you find. So that is called plagiarism, So she was caught and she was accused of charging of plagiarism, and was thereafter mortified at the thought of writing for quite some time. Helen explains that she must have been read Gansby's story during her childhood, but the child had not read actually, which left an unconscious impression in her mind, Okay, the child didn't know actually the story previously, but she wrote and he did match with the another writer, who had already written before, So that is why it didn't come in full effect. Helen visited Niagara Falls in March 1893 for the first time. She finds difficulty phrasing the emotions she felt when standing over the American Falls. That summer she went to the World Fair with Alexander Graham Bell and Miss Sullivan, satiating her curiosity about the unseen world and opening many doors for her imagination. So I am, you won't believe that Perkins Institution, the professor, over there, the director, and Miss Sullivan, the teacher, instructor of Helen, lot of pain they took to uplift the child to come out from the darkness, and Helen did also with the help of her hard work, by dint of hard work. Now Helen studied many subjects including the history of the world, Latin grammar also. In 1896 she entered the Cambridge School for Young Ladies, preparing for Radcliffe College. Although her education with Miss Sullivan helped in accessibility to Braille text, and at the same time it took for textbook to be embossed, stymied her ability to learn, Yet Cambridge School allowed Helen the chance to mingle with girls her own age. After her examination, she entered Radcliffe in the fall 1900, So Helen realized that college was, now since school education is over, at home, and then she was prepared to send to a college, and she entered also, okay. Helen realized that college was not as romantic as she had imagined it. She didn't have time to think and process the way she could before. Of her learning material in college, she writes, the overtaxed mind cannot enjoy the treasure it has secured at the greatest cost. Books taught Helen the world And I'm telling you, she became an independent child. She could read the text of her own. No need to take the guidance from any other people. And Miss Sullivan made her familiarize with the words and phrases and how to speak, in such a way that the child became so much independent. And when she attended, college, that time she could speak and write or making story of her own, with a lot of creativity. Like books taught Helen the world, she was influenced by the likes of the Lord Fauntleroy, the Scarlet Letter, American novel, this is, Scarlet Letter, and Robinson Crusoe also. Okay, Daniel Defoe, some of the great writers she read about some of the great writers, their works of art. She also read William Shakespeare, Macbeth, and King Lear. Some of the important plays also she read out in college. Okay, enjoyed Goethe's Faust. This is also one kind of novel, and Molière and Racine, besides reading, she was actually a voracious reader, and she used to write beautiful stories, in her college level, Helen Keller found amusement in nature and outdoor activities also. She took part in outdoor activities. She only one, the whole credit should go to the teacher Miss Sullivan, with having a lot of patience, she handled the kid, and she gathered, confidence in the child, and she motivated her, okay, to become patient. She would often explore the gardens and the tree, because from the beginning we read out about Helen, that Helen was very much fond of nature, because the house where they were living, it was surrounded by some natural beauty, and scene. Okay, beautiful garden was there at their entrance, so Helen used to love it very much, but unfortunately the fever, it took away eyesight and hearing capacity from Helen. But from the beginning, we discussed also that how the child was getting wild, getting embarrassed, okay, getting frustrated. But when Miss Sullivan entered into her life, then everything changed. Drastic change you will find. She enjoyed conning in the moonlight, tobogganing, in the winter time, and cycling. Lot of outdoor activity the child used to have, There were several influential people in Helen Keller's life, Helen Keller's life, like bishops, books offered spiritual guidance, Dr. Oliver. These are the people, who had some impact. They created some impact in Helen's life, actually. Whom she impressed with the recitations of Tennyson's poem, Brick, Brick, Wilfred Lord Tennyson, he has written the poem Brick, Brick, Brick. Through her influential friends, she is an American writer and activist, but she not only read American writers also, she also went through different English writers also and their novels, their story, like William Shakespeare. He's from England. He's a great playwright, has written so many plays, okay, different tragedy, comedy, so she used to read out, everything. Through her influential friends, Helen was also introduced to other literary readers, also including William Dean Howells and Mark Twain. These are the great writers. So she was introduced to all these eminent personalities, because Helen also could achieve that level. She, being a blind and deep, how could she introduce or how could she gain, that kind of wisdom, That is, the whole credit should go to Helen also, because it is by virtue of her own hard work and determination, and perseverance, the child could lift up to such a peak. Okay. Now, in a simple way, again we can revise the story here. You see, Helen Keller, she was the first child, who had to overcome her obstacles and learning and obtaining an education herself. Helen developed a passion for helping other people also, because her teacher Miss Sullivan first helped her. Miss Sullivan taught Helen to communicate using the manual alphabet with the help of braille text. Okay. She replied, she spelled individual letters also into Helen's palm, and to create each word, Helen received assistance when she was in college using this method also. Because when she entered the college, again she needed the help of the braille text so that she could identify and speak, But after that she became independent to understand, and she, without much effort, she used to write, story of her own. She was able to do more and reach more people through her writing. It means Helen became a great writer, and she became a social worker also. You can see at the end. Later in life, Helen did fundraising for AFB, American Foundation for the Blind. AFB, the full form you can see, American Foundation for the Blind, and she not only became a great writer also, and she became a social activist, took part in all social work actively. Okay. Helen helped to raise money so that the organizations could assist blind individuals. Helen also advocated for the United States government to do more to assist the visually impaired people, Okay, those who are not able to hear, not only for the blind, also those who are not able to hear anything, So, in part because of Helen's advocacy, blindness became a disability recognized by the government. This allowed blind people to receive government assistance, because before, blind people, they were not being assisted, they were not getting, any help from the government side, But due to the initiative of Helen, because Helen has undergone through deafness and blindness, so she could understand the pain of a blind person, Did you understand? So she became an ambassador. She motivated the people over there, and the people started receiving also some government aid also, okay, some help also from government side. Helen was also an advocate for Braille. During Helen's lifetime, there were several different systems of reading and writing for the people with visual loss, For blind people, with the help of Braille text, they can identify a word or they can write something, you see. And during Helen's lifetime, there were several different systems of reading and writing for people with visual loss. Due to Helen's work, Braille became the standard system in 1932. Okay, so it means that you think that the child, nobody could predict that the child would reach to such a zenith, or she could flourish in life, But you see, imagine that how she achieved all the success, So this is the success story of that child, Besides having all the difficulties, okay, all the disability, she had, but still, irrespective of all the, how she could reach up to that point, or she could achieve her target in life, She became a writer, American writer, like the eminent other writers, and she was being compared with other writers of English. Okay, and for her, Braille text, it became the standard system in 1932, and she not only help out the blind people also the people who are visually impaired or who lost their hearing capacity also. Clear? So this is all about. So I hope that little bit you have understood, the story of Helen Keller, Okay. So we have to understand that like normal children, after reading the story of Helen Keller, I hope that some sort of motivation, the story might have given to you, and I hope that if physically handicapped people are able to raise the standard of their life, then why not we normal people can do it? Did you understand what I am trying to say you or explain you in this story? The moral of the story. Can anyone tell me what can be the best moral of the story here? What can be the moral of the story? Can anyone text me what is the moral of the story, Sandhya? What should be the best moral that we can think of from the story, the Helen Keller A Bond for Life. Bond for Life by Helen Keller. This is an autobiography. The child had written the story of her own, whatever the difficulties, hurdles, obstacles that came when she was blind. Previously, what are the obstacles she faced, and slowly how these obstacles she just kept aside all the obstacles and started moving onwards in her life. That is all about. Yes. Can anyone tell me what is the moral? Yes. Anyone who can think of a best moral, that we can think of from the story? Subham, any moral do you find in the story? Of course, this is a motivational and influential story. It can easily mold one's personality, and someone's character also. Yes. Text me, type your answer. Yes, text me your answer. Yes, Sandhya, you have written we should always face obstacles and not lose because of them. Okay, don't give up. Jitan, you have written don't give up, okay? Dhanasri, you have written we should face every problem, okay? Now, first of all, we have to understand that how to overcome difficulties, obstacles on our way which come in your life, and you should build up the patience of empowering the deaf and blind also, and that Helen did it also. Okay, not only she raised the standard of that particular Braille text also. Okay, also she raised the standard of the living, especially the visually impaired people and the blind people. Did you understand? And you can also reach the sky. You can also touch the sky. The sky can be a limit for you if you have really determination, persistence, all these good qualities if you have in your mind or heart, then you will be able to reach the zenith of your success in life. Success can be your. Okay. So over a trivial problem you see, don't get just worried. You see the physically handicapped people, how much patience they have, and they will take a lot of patience to handle the things. We normal people, whenever there is smaller problem it comes to us, then we just get worried. But you think that being a blind, to become a blind and deaf, and to remain or to continue the life, or to spend the rest of your life, just by remaining blind and deaf, how difficult it is. Did you understand? So this is all about. So dear students, tomorrow I will give you Monday. I will just circulate 10 questions, and these 10 questions you prepare for your examination, and we'll discuss all these 10 questions. Then another one, the poem I will teach you in detail. Next poem, I'm going to teach you line by line, each stanza line by line. We are going to read out in our next class. So thank you very much for attending Live Plus today. Thank you very much.